All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about graphing log functions. So, as we mentioned before, the log function is just the inverse of the exponential function. So because of that, we have some reference points that should look familiar. So for log functions, we start with 1, 0, and then b, 1. Remember, b is your base here. You can find it as the subscript of the log. All right? So in comparison, when we did exponential functions, so an exponential function, we had b to the x, and our reference points for those was 0, 1, and 1, b. So this is for exponential. We've graphed these guys already. But, as I mentioned the other day, log functions are inverses. So if you notice, all we did was switch the 0 and 1 to 1 and 0. The 1, b is now switched to b, 1 because of the inverse. All right? Log functions also have a horizontal asymptote. So we now have a horizontal line, a vertical line that cannot be crossed by our log function. Okay, so you see, here's our log function. It will never cross the vertical line at 0. Okay, this asymptote changes depending on our h value. So whatever our h value is, our asymptote will shift left and right, as you will see as we graph some of these. Our range now is always going to be negative infinity to positive infinity. Our domain will be h, positive infinity. And like I mentioned, our asymptote is no longer y equal to k. It is x equal to h. All right, let's go ahead and just remind you of the graphing rules. So this is what our log function looks when we have an a value, h value, and k value. I shouldn't have to go over this again, okay? If a is bigger than 1, it's a stretch. A is between 0 and 1, it's a compression. If a is negative, it's a reflection. How do I use a? A multiplies with your y values, okay? B is your base of the log. This is how we get our starting point. So we really don't do anything with the B except for finding our first points. H shifts left and right. Remember, our true H value is opposite of the sign. So instead of negative, it'd be positive. If it was positive here, it'd be negative. Okay? This adds or subtracts from your X value. K shifts up and down. We do not switch the sign. This adds or subtracts to your y value. All right, so with these rules in mind, let's do our first graph. So first thing I want to do is put down my reference points. So that's going to be 1, 0, and b, 1. Okay, so now we look at our function. Our b value is actually going to be 2. So instead of b, I'm going to put in 2, 1. Okay, these are my starting points. Now let's apply our a, h, and k. Our a value is -4. Our h value, instead of +2, is going to be -2. We want to switch the sign. And our k value is +1. So as a reminder, we're going to have a reflection because of the negative. Okay, so a vertical reflection over the x-axis. And because it's the number 4, which is bigger than 1, it's a vertical stretch. So keep that in mind as we graph these bad boys here. Our H value is -2 because we switched the sign, so that means we're going to shift backwards 2 times. And K is +1, which means we're going to shift up 1 time. All right, so that's what's happening, but we can take care of that by just applying the algebra to our points. So taking our original points, we're going to multiply by -4 to all the y values. So now I am going to have a new set of points. So it's going to be 1, 0 still, and 2, -4. So we multiply there, and now I'm going to apply the h and k. The h goes with the x's, which is -2, and the k goes with the y's. So we're going to add and subtract those. That's going to give me -1, 1, and this is going to give me 0, -3. So these are the points I want to plot here. Before I plot them, I want to draw in my vertical asymptote. Okay, so a vertical asymptote is, if you remember from our previous slide, so I'm going to go back a little bit. Our vertical asymptote is whatever our h value is. Remember, our true h value. So let's go back here. My true h value, remember, switch the sign, is going to be -2. So I'm going to put a vertical line at -2. So I cannot cross that, and now I'm going to plot my points. -1, 1. And 0, -3. Okay, so I have these dots, which really don't mean much, but I know I cannot cross this, and we got to keep the elbow shape. Okay, so to keep the elbow shape, or the L shape, I know I cannot cross, so I'm going to go like this, and it's an elbow shape. Okay, this is my sketch of my log function. Remember, it got flipped, so it's flipped upside down, and we're good to go. Let's try another one. So again, here's the rules up here. If you want to reference the rules, let's start with our original points. 1, 0, and then b, 1. My b value is going to be the log base. So if you look, it's a log base of 10. Since there's no log here, we know that this has a 10. Okay, so I'm going to put a 10 here. Cool. Now we're going to do A, H, and K. My A value is 3. So because my A value is 3, this is going to be a vertical stretch of 3. I'm not going to write it down. I just described it. Vertical stretch of 3. No reflection. My H is going to be -5. Remember, switch the sign. So it's +5 here, -5 here. That means I'm going to shift left. So this direction, -5. And then my K value is -1, which means I'm going to shift down 1. So let's apply it. We apply it by multiplying the A value with the Y. So we're going to multiply it by 3. That gives me 1, 0, 10, 3. Okay, so now we're going to do H and K. The H adds and subtracts to the X's. The K adds and subtracts to the Y's. So once we do that, we should have -4, -1, if you do the math correctly. And this one should give me 5, 2. So those are our final points, but before we graph, we look at the H value now for our asymptote. Our asymptote is going to be at -5. Remember, it's a vertical asymptote now because it's a log function, so we cannot cross -5. Let's plot our points. -4, 1. Sorry, -4, -1. And then 5, 2. Okay, so we have these 2 points. Remember, we need the L shape without crossing my asymptote. So if you look, it's going to have this shape. And that's our log graph. Okay. Let's do one more. Go a little quicker here. Start with our original points, 1, 0, and then B, 1, which is 2, 1. My A is equal to 1/2. My H is equal to -1, and then my K is equal to 2. All right, so we're gonna have a compression, shift left 1, and then shift up 2. So the A multiplies with the Y values. So that's going to be 1, 0, 2, 1/2, or 0.5. And then my H and K, H goes with the X's, my K goes with the Y's. Add and subtract those. So it's going to be 0, 2. It's going to be 1, 2.5, or 2.5. Okay, we'll just keep it as 2.5. If you like decimals, it's 2.5. My asymptote is -1. So a vertical asymptote at -1. And I plot my points. 0, 2. And 1, 2.5. So 2.5 is right there. So 1, 2.5. Keep the shape of an elbow, which is the log shape, cannot pass the vertical asymptote. There's our graph. That is it.